I think OnePlus is headed in the right direction. They've come out with some really interesting devices this year, especially the Genshin Impact OnePlus 12R that we recently checked out. If you haven't seen that video, you can click on the top right and go check it out. We'll also have it linked in the description below. But today we are checking out the Nord CE4, and I have to say that I'm pretty impressed with the design and the overall look of this device. So let's quickly get into this device and see what it's capable of and how we feel about the new OnePlus Nord CE4. To start off with, you have a really nice design. The phone weighs in at only 186 grams, but you've got this really nice marble look at the back, which I have come to appreciate quite a lot. This is glass, and there is glass on the front as well as the back. And the frame of the phone is plastic, which is what probably constitutes most of the lowering down of the weight of the device. The phone feels great in the hand. It's got nice rounded corners, but it is a little sharp on the edges. So the flat surface of the plastic frame tends to sort of touch you at the fingertips, but it doesn't hurt or poke in any way. You do have a case included inside the box, which is a soft silicone-esque case, which does provide a lot of protection. It does have a lip around the device as well, and also makes the phone a lot more comfortable to use. The display is a 6.7-inch AMOLED display that does support HDR10+. It's a really nice vivid display. It has 120 Hz of refresh rate as well. It is a full HD display, and you get about 394 pixels per inch. You got over 93% of screen to body ratio, and the bezels around the display are pretty symmetrical, so it gives a nice look to the overall front of the device. If you move over to the back, apart from the really nice marble design, you do have two Sony cameras. The main is a Sony LYT600 50 megapixel camera, and this does have optical image stabilization. And then alongside that, you do have a Sony IMX355, which is an 8 megapixel camera. So I do like the two cameras at the back, which is much better than some of the other phones that including OnePlus has launched, which do have some random cameras in there, including those 2 megapixel and 5 megapixel macros, which are not necessarily needed. So you do have a really nice camera setup, and we'll get into that in just a second. On the front also, you do have a 16 megapixel camera. Now, running everything on this device is the Qualcomm Snapdragon 7 Gen 3 chip, which is a fairly powerful chip for this category of device. You also do get 8 GB of RAM along with virtual RAM expansion. As far as storage is concerned, you do get 128 or 256 GB of storage options, which are UFS 3.1, and the RAM is LPDDR4X. For juice, you do have a 5500 mAh battery that supports 100 watts of charging, and a charger is included inside the box along with the case like I mentioned previously. Overall, in terms of performance, you'll get Android 14 out of the box along with Oxygen OS 14 that is optimized quite well, and some of the functionality that you will get from this device, which is Oxygen OS specific, including things like gestures and the always on display, are pretty good and really customizable. What is also good is that day-to-day performance on this device is pretty snappy, and whether you're looking at benchmarks, which we'll have on the screen for you now, or whether you're looking at games, this phone does perform without hesitating in any way whatsoever. The large battery size also helps with extended periods of gaming, and if you're somebody who talks on their phone a lot, which is unusual nowadays for some reason, this phone is pretty good for that as well. You've got 7 to 8 5G bands, and this phone does have a really good network connection. And here is what the microphone on the OnePlus Nord CE4 sounds like. Here is a sample of what the audio sounds like on the OnePlus Nord CE4. The speakers on this are also pretty impressive. Here is a sample of what the speakers sound like. Bluetooth speaker that resembles our previous Musen speaker that we checked out. This is a larger version of that in terms of its looks. This phone also does support Wildvine L1, so you'll be able to stream your content in HD without any problems. So all of those things are pretty well taken care of. And like I mentioned, the phone is lightweight, so if you're holding this and watching content on it for extended periods of time, that is not a problem. It's a pretty good device in terms of its performance, in terms of its overall capability. It also does have an IP54 rating, which is unusual again for OnePlus because they don't tend to get ratings usually, but they did for this device. As far as connectivity is concerned, you do get Wi-Fi 6, which can be looked as a letdown because a lot of devices are coming out with Wi-Fi 7 now, but you do have Wi-Fi 6, and then you also have Bluetooth 5.4, and the USB-C port at the bottom is only a Type 2 USB-C port. So those are a little bit of letdown because you can get a much faster port. Now let's talk about the cameras. Some of the samples that we took have come out really nice. It does capture video at 4K at 30 FPS at the maximum and 1080 at 60 60 FPS, you do have an ultra stabilization mode as well, which uses a combination of optical image stabilization as well as the electronic image stabilization to give you video, but that is capped at 1080 at 60 FPS. The images are nice and bright. They have good contrast and good color reproduction as well. And some of the colors that pop, especially in this image of the flowers, show that this camera is really versatile. You can see that there is a lot of detail even on the edges of the photographs, and the color, including the HDR capability in the background versus the foreground, comes out really nice. The front camera is also pretty good, and the cameras in general have been optimized really well by OnePlus on the Nord CE4. So if you're in the market looking for a device which does perform really well and does have really impressive cameras and is not as expensive as the OnePlus 12R or the OnePlus 12, this basically is like a mini version of that device, giving you mostly all the features, and you've got to love this marble finish back panel. So that's our review of the OnePlus Nord CE4. If you have any questions, queries, drop them below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.